hundreds of migrants on the sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan.
We need help.
And when you look at the actual list of partners with the World Economic Forum, they control everything. They control media, they control health, they control business.
Everything seems to be revolved around accommodating the Haitians first and the American citizens second. And that's why they're so upset at the City Commission.
I got to believe that has totally changed the culture. And if I were a resident, I'd be pissed.
And its number one goal is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Radical Islam is not only on the rise across the Atlantic, but it now has the potential to control it.
New figures show a sharp rise in crime.
By 2016, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over.
America, this is our future. In fact, we're well on our way.
You're not crazy, and you're not paranoid. You're just waking up. There's a conspiracy theory that the media wants you to believe. The media is very skilled at manipulating the masses. You see, you only see what they want you to see.
Replacement theory is the idea that white populations, both in North America, here in the USA, and in Europe, are being replaced by minority populations, largely through immigration.
You know, across the nation, people are starting to notice patterns, a constant influx of migrants being skillfully planted into their cities, their towns, and their providences. Some are bussed in the dead of the night. Others are flown in to your local airports, and you're not supposed to notice or even mention it. And it's well coordinated. And it's time we call it for what it actually is. Mass migration is happening all over the world, and the consequences are unfolding right before our eyes, and it's painful. Now, these policies originate from the elitists of the world. They're dystopian ideological policies, however, will be the end of us in the end. The end of our country and the end of everything that we know.
What do you make of some of the data points we're hearing that all of the job gains are going to foreign-born workers, none of them to native-born Americans?
Well, Taylor, on net balance, that's certainly true. Now, I do want to point out something about the numbers that were on the screen. I think the more worrying part is, again, like the part-time versus full-time employment, this is part of a broader, longer trend where native-born Americans have made literally no progress in terms of employment in the last 5 years. In other words, there are fewer native-born Americans employed today than before the pandemic. All of the job gains on net have gone to foreign-born workers. And by the way, the BLS admits on their website that that category includes an unknown number of illegal aliens.
Let me say something. You're not going to fix this. Nothing will change if you just acquiesce. If you just go along with it, well, there's nothing I can do. Do you see that they're testing you again? This is like COVID. Wear a mask 6 feet apart. Stay in your house. No kids going to school. They know what they could get away with on that. Now, what are they doing? They're taking jobs and giving them to illegals without taking care of our own people first. And you're just resigned to that?
You know, I'm 60. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother. Maybe you're someone just like me, and you're watching the world spin out of control, and you're seeing this mass migration happening all around you. And it's painful to watch. And hopefully you're aware of it. Sometimes you do have to turn to another channel to see what's actually going on. As I mentioned earlier, The media is very, very skilled at manipulating the public. If you only watch certain channels, you're only going to see certain things. If you really want to know what's going on, you need to open your eyes and look around.
Let me say also one thing about what Senator Murphy experienced on our trip on Friday to El Paso. That 13-year-old girl who was in tears was a young girl who would have been expelled back into Mexico during the Trump administration. And what we are doing is addressing the humanitarian needs of those children.
This is not the right place for these kids. If there isn't a consequence, we're going to have, the flow is going to increase. And those things that end up happening, the stories, the untold stories of the little ones, God knows that these kids were molested.
Ice joins me now. He's the attorney for Rachel Morin's family. Randolph, good to have you with us. Obviously, this is just a terrible tragedy. These 5 children no longer have their mother.
2 migrants charged in the death of that 12-year-old Texas girl are set to appear in court this morning.
The medical examiner determining that her cause of death was strangulation.
Where are you from?
India.
What part? Punjab?
Yeah, Punjab.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
We are going to USA.
The notorious Darien Gap migrant passage between Colombia and Panama is one of the most richly multinational immigration routes in the world. Foreign nationals from 160 different countries are moving through, including more than 60,000 Chinese nationals.
And this mass migration is just the beginning. Yes, it's just the beginning of what they call the New World Order. So I thought I would get to the root cause of this mass migration and the people behind the scenes pulling the strings. The World Economic Forum, they were established in 1971 as a nonprofit organization, and their concept for their organization is this public-private partnership, or a public-private world where they control everything.
The WEF engages in political, business, academic, civil society, and with other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas.
Sounds so official. But nobody at the World Economic Forum has ever been elected to anything. These are not elected officials, but yet they want to control everything in your life. The World Economic Forum is most famous for the phrase, "You will owe nothing and be happy." And they mean it. So the World Economic Forum wants to eliminate poverty by sending the impoverished to your backyard.
80% of the world's poor live in areas that are defined as fragile. Now, there was celebration last year with the signing of the Global Migration Pact, but that was also overshadowed to an extent by the countries that didn't sign it.
And that there's a deadline is a great thing. I think, so one, I love the deadline, and I think that's really important. I love the optimism and the agreement behind them. I do think that it's absolutely crucial in the world that there is this second narrative.
And see a headline having to do with migrants and the very difficult journeys that they make. And one of the key challenges we're dealing with is the climate crisis. And to give you a sense of the scale, we could have up to 3 billion people exposed to extreme heat waves by 2090 under a high warming scenario.
And they will skillfully exploit topics like climate change, diversity, and equity, all to push their agendas. But they have help. They have a lot of help. They have more than 100 big corporations that have partnered with them. You can actually go to their website and look at these corporations for yourself. They're very big companies, many of which are here in the United States of America, and they too want to control your behavior. But wait, they also want to make money while doing it. They are actually controlling a lot of what's going on today. They use a tool called ESG.
So they call it ESG today. After the work I've done in the last couple of years, I built a company to fight against this in capital markets, wrote a couple of books. What are they saying? We're not calling it ESG anymore. We're going to call it something else. Sustainability, whatever they use for the future. The reality is what's going on is this. They're using our money, the money of most of the people here this morning, to implement social and environmental agendas through the back door, through corporate America, using your retirement.
And I might add that the current government in charge in the U.S. is in lockstep with the World Economic Forum, even borrowing many of their phrases.
And you think I'm just imagining this stuff? Crazy old Rowan with his conspiracy theories? Think again. This garbage is already deeply embedded into our state and federal governments. I've spoken before about the insidious phrase, build back better, which sounds like common sense, but is in fact just one of several slogans for the Great Reset. Another being the Orwellian phrase, the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
And this revolution will come at a breathtaking speed. It will be like a tsunami.
Like a tsunami in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. That is an order. It gets worse. The World Economic Forum are now blatantly saying capitalism needs a dose of Marxism. As I say, it's not like they're hiding their sinister intentions.
Now, if you've made it this far through the video, I'm going to give you some very good reasons to continue to watch. Like your personal safety.
Claims of an already volatile situation.
As the New York Police Department has released body camera footage of the attack on 2 officers by a group of migrants in Times Square. This happened last month.
Take a look at this really disturbing video. It has been making the rounds, going viral. This is out in Aurora, Colorado, and it's one that is making headlines, of course, all over the country, where the mayor of Aurora says Venezuelan gangs are overrunning apartment buildings there.
We've all seen crime rising where we live. And a lot of it has to do with mass migration. Do you want to be fearful when you walk outside of your home? Or how about leaving your home, whether or not it's going to be robbed, or whether you're going to have a home invasion, or whether, I don't know, your apartment complex will get taken over by gangs. And it's just not your personal safety, it's also your financial security.
The benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable.
And you'll find that the Department of Treasury also has some interesting thoughts on digital currency and how it can be used.
When you look at some of the companies that are partnered with the World Economic Forum, it does all make sense. I mean, you have Amazon, AstraZeneca, BlackRock, Bank of America, Cisco, Chevron, Citibank, IBM, Dell, JP Morgan Chase. That's just to name a few. And they've partnered with the WEF because it will, in the end, if their agendas are achieved, they will benefit financially. Just for instance, let's say you can't own a house or can't afford to own a house and you have to rent. There's lots of corporations that would benefit from that. You're on the hamster wheel forever, renting. BlackRock, Blackstone, State Street, they're all swooping up homes left and right. Per the WEF's website, This requires a well-coordinated, intentional effort between policymakers, businesses, civil society, and communities to push for changes on how we run the economy. Their words, not mine. And they do not want any specific country to be more powerful than the other. They particularly do not want the United States of America to be a superpower anymore. And they have said that. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen. I can't imagine that China would actually agree with that either.
The WEF and the UN are both working on Agenda 2030 as a team. This plan includes 17 lofty goals, from ending poverty to how you use energy and even programmable digital currency. These elites want to transform the globe into their version of society. And your personal safety, your finances, and even your country will be casualties in the process. One of the primary steps in destabilizing a nation is mass migration. Instability makes compliance easier to attain.
Claims of an already volatile situation.
And to give you reference, look at what's happening in the UK. France, Germany, they have mass migration, and it is destroying their country. You also have entities like the United Nations. Their logo or slogan is a world without borders. They also want to send the impoverished to your backyard, and they want you to subsidize it. And these people that are being skillfully planted into your country have no intention of assimilating. There's plenty of video that makes that extremely clear. If you want to dive in deep and see what I consider some very disturbing video, go to the Glenn Beck channel. And he has done an excellent job of showing what's happening in France, Germany, and the UK. And I would highly recommend that you watch it. It's titled Europe's Migration Crisis. Now, it's clear that the WF would like to control every aspect of your life if they can manage it. And it's just not migration. It's also programmable digital currency. And as I mentioned, the US is in lockstep with much of what they are pushing. And if you go to their website, you will see hundreds of initiatives that they have underway. But what I find most interesting about their website is there's a lot of what we want to do and very little about how they plan on doing it. And I'm sure that's for a reason. Like advanced data equity. Now, I wasn't aware that data had equity, but more than ever before, data equity is a shared responsibility that requires collective action to plan data practices and systems that promote fair and just outcomes for all. So, typically you take data and you report it. It is what it is. It's called the truth. But if you take data and manipulate it somehow so that it's fair and just or equitable, it's no longer data. So they've got this thing called microfinance targeted towards Middle Eastern countries. They refer to it as the GCC. And apparently this microfinance that they have, they are focusing on making it Sharia compliant. And when will our banking systems become Sharia compliant? Just take a look at what's happening over in Europe. It's a little taste of what's coming here. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm awake. The question is, are you? If you got anything out of this video, like it, subscribe, share it with a friend. And I hope I see you here again. Got a lot to talk about.